Hello everyone and welcome to Gaming Etiquette. Today's topic, when to buy a console. This might be a little heated. Personally, I will give my repertoire right now. A console needs to have certain features, certain upgrades, certain reasons to a functionality to go to. But really, when I think about it, a console only needs 4 good games, or 3 really good ones. It's always been a foreign, alien concept to me that people will buy consoles without knowing or even caring what the games on the console are. A console is only as good as the games available on it. And some people just view it as a prestige item, I've found out. I know plenty of people who've had certain consoles that they've said, yes, I've bought it, but it just sat there and collected dust, without realizing, well, of course it would. Are you not a real gamer? And in some cases, the answer is yes. There are people who don't really play video games. They don't do market research. They don't care. They play FIFA, essentially, sometimes, and they'll buy a PS5 Pro and let it collect dust. To me, it reminds me of the people who buy the new iPhone or Samsung or whatever new smartphone when there's no real tangible upgrade other than the size of storage, maybe, and just the fact it's the new one. It's something that I've always found perversely consumerist. I don't even want to say capitalistic. It's just a hunger for the new cutting edge thing as a status symbol rather than the actual experience of it. And I've frankly never understood it unless other than the fact that the person who does this is completely blindly, soullessly consuming. But for us real gamers, when we are looking at a console to really purchase, it really is a question of the games on it. And again, 3 to 4 good or great games is all it really takes. Something that says that is an experience worth paying X amount of dollars to get to. Now, there have been some interesting, funny anecdotes throughout the history of gaming where, for example, the worst scenario that has ever plagued internet chat forums is when a console, or even a PC in some cases, is so abhorrently expensive, it produces not a normal, but a toxic, or an ultra sunk cost fallacy. And I'm really actually talking about the PS3 era, where you had a console that was $300 more, roughly, than its competitors. It was obscenely, abhorrently expensive. And to boot, the meme that PS3 has no games to a non-gamer might seem odd because of course it had games, it just didn't have any quality games, especially at launch. Things like Assassin's Creed and Mass Effect were ported later to the PS3. When the PS3 essentially came out, it was a $600 Blu-ray player that played MotorStorm and eventually Metal Gear Solid 4. It was a giant brick, similar to the PS5, mind you. And I've always contended that these things work in cycles. The PS4 was much better. It had things like Well, of course, it had Bloodborne, which was exclusive to it, but it also had a lot of other great titles like Gravity Rush Remastered, which was a PSP exclusive, which frankly, like, I'm sorry, who owned a PSP? I mean, some people did, but I mean, come on, there was like one game on it that was good. But the PS4 had a much more impressive library, and it stayed to a more gamer-first centered idea. You can see that in the corporate world, there has been this push, more or less, to not sell video game consoles, but to sell multimedia machines. An all-in-one, do-it-all kind of concept that I didn't really see until with the PlayStation 3, where they were not really selling it as a game console, but as a Blu-ray player first. Unironically, it's a Blu-ray player that also plays games. This was a all-in-one appliance, basically, for wealthy people to own as a status symbol, regardless of whether or not you use it. And it was around 2007 when it came out, which was when the game market and the game industry completely snowplowed music and movies combined. It was the time of consumerist capitalist investment in which everything became all about the money. And more or less we entered the silver age of gaming, where, yeah, you still have good games being made here and there, but slowly and steadily that decreases, because the main concept in this market is no longer interesting games and weird spin-offs and ideas, but it is money. And as the main incentive, the things that make the most money with the less risk kept getting produced, which has led to sequels and remasters as we know them today. We are mired in them, and an original idea is as rare as a three-legged unicorn. So what occurred in this era of Gen 7 is that you had people making YouTube videos saying and appraising, oh, I have a PlayStation 3, I have the best game console known to man, I paid a premium price for this thing. And there was this era of cognitive dissonance of people touting that they owned a PS3 but didn't play anything on it. At least nothing of quality, nothing that was really worth talking about, at least in the beginning of its development cycle. What's very interesting, though, is that this is not a PlayStation exclusive problem, even though we see the same thing happening with the PS5, a obscenely overpriced console with the COVID chip shortage not exactly helping that, but really pouring gasoline on the problem. But Xbox also had its own stint in the post-360 era where the PS4 was kind of culturally dominating things. The Xbox One took a big step backwards in which it really, well, I don't need to say much. You can look at E3 2013, roughly, I think it was, or 14, where the word of the day for Xbox was TV. You could watch TV, stream TV, show TV. I don't need to play it. You know the clip I'm talking about. And you had, Dom Matrick before Phil Spencer, who, of course, infamously said, if you want a non-online always system, you have 360 for that, which just kind of blew their smoke in their customers' faces. It's interesting how PlayStation and Xbox have traded blows each generation, by each one getting super confident of the previous generation of gamers and game-focused media to saying, you know what, we don't need games anymore. We don't need the gamers. We are a multimedia powerhouse, and we're going to appeal to everyone. We're not about games. We're about entertainment. And every single time, they eat dirt because of it. What's funny, though, is at least PlayStation seems to learn its lesson somewhat, as it backed or reverted back to more gamer-focused centric era of the PS4, which was roughly 2014 to 1819, and now the PS5 is out, and while it is a bit more back to a hyper expensive, ultra, elitist commodity, it at least has some games, while Xbox doesn't really seem to be focused on exclusive. Phil Spencer infamously saying that exclusives aren't going to save Xbox when in the same year Astro Bot, the PlayStation exclusive, wins Game of the Year. Additionally, what has been a weird saving grace on the Xbox's side has been Game Pass, a revolutionary service that PlayStation and everyone else is now copying that allows gamers to rent games digitally. Something that's kind of been around since the era of Redbox or Netflix or Gamefly, but you're not getting mailed games, you actually just download them as kind of you were supposed to begin with. It's a weird world that we live in, but the sunk cost fallacy people will not go away.